When I was 15, I had the whole world by the tail. I knew how to get there, and my whole life revolved around physical activity and the use of my legs. I even one day had this wild dream of being in the Olympic Games and representing my country. Then I was deciding to come back from a fishing trip, and me and my buddy, rather than wait a day later and get a ride back with our friend's father, we decided to do something very interesting. We took a risk. We hitchhiked home from a fishing trip, and we got a ride with a stranger. That was a fateful choice, and we got in the pickup truck and had a little snooze, and I woke up a couple of hours into the trip to hear this blood-curdling scream, and it was the driver's girlfriend. We were skidding out of control, and we'd turned around a corner that was rough, and it was gravelly, and he just lost control. As I started to regain consciousness, I went to move my legs, and there was a searing pain in my back, and I was propped up against this big steel toolbox, and I wasn't able to move my legs. And when I touched them, they were numb, and they just wiggled like jelly. You want to talk about panic in the mind of a 15-year-old as I lay propped up against that box for over an hour until the ambulance came. They sent me to a hospital, and the doctor then x-rayed me, and he said I'd never walk again. My spinal cord had been damaged. It was a pretty devastating thing for a 15-year-old to have to deal with, to have all of your hopes and dreams appear to be shattered along with your spine. Well, fortunately, after all these years, we've been able to also learn from our experiences, and we've learned that maybe that's not the right thing to do, to hitchhike and get in the back of a pickup truck. As a matter of fact, we've embedded laws that prevent young people from being able to do such things. And as a result, we've also created awareness, and injuries have been prevented, deaths have been prevented. It's fantastic to see that kind of change take place as a result of great organizations like Parachute. Injuries can be prevented. We can make a difference.
June the 3rd, 2009 is a day in my life and my family's that we will never, ever forget, and changed us irreparably. My son Josh was on his way home from the doctor's. He was driving on a beautiful sunny day when the cell phone which he was carrying went off in his pocket. In no more than a space of a second or two, that brief distraction caused the car to start to wander into the next lane. Josh realised, overcorrected, and ended up flipping the car several times, landing in a ditch on the opposite side of the road. Josh had suffered a severe head injury to the back of his head and was not breathing. Luckily, an off-duty paramedic passing the scene at the time was able to give him artificial respiration. At 6:10 p.m, we had a phone call to say that Josh was in hospital. When we got there, the doctors told us that they'd tried everything, but that there was nothing they could do for him, and that he was brain dead. We were taken to see him. He was lay on a bed. He had a breathing tube coming from his mouth, but he wasn't breathing. His eyes were open, but he wasn't seeing anything. His hands were warm when I held them, but he was gone. We said that we wanted to donate Josh's organs, and on June the 4th, 2009, Josh went for his operation and helped save the lives of 6 people. He was 17 years old. All this should never have happened. The effect that it had on myself and my family has been indescribable. We are no longer the people that we were before his crash. Everything changes. On the outside, we may seem okay, but there is always a huge piece missing in our hearts. There is not one single day that we don't think of him, and we miss him. We truly believe that if Josh had known the consequences of trying to reach for that cell phone, that he wouldn't have. The impact that it had, not just on us, but on his friends and his school and his community, was just staggering. We want to make sure that no other family has to go through what we have and still are going through. We want to make sure that no family has to bury their loved ones because of the consequence of distracted driving. We want to make distracted driving socially unacceptable. Everybody is responsible for making sure that that happens, and you can make it happen. No phone call or text message or anything that takes your concentration from the road is worth your life. We will do whatever is necessary, and as for as long as is needed to help prevent these tragedies, because that's what they are preventable. We applaud Parachute for being leaders in injury prevention. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I wish that I just came here tonight to tell Wayne exactly what did happen in that overtime game, 6 and 93, but unfortunately I'm not here to talk about hockey, but rather a choice I made at 2:30 a.m. on July 2nd, 2006. Returning back to the cottage after a night of drinking at a bar, I found myself on the edge of a dock. I was getting ready to dive in when a quick thought ran through my head. Should I dive in or not? I thought, oh, the water will be cold. Just get it over with. I dove in, hit bottom, and broke my neck, which paralyzed me from the chest down instantly. I was in the water all alone, laying face down and unable to flip over to breathe. The reality of now drowning and ultimately dying hit me. As I began to feel life slowly slipping into a darkness, I wondered how all of this could have happened. But I've been a risk taker for as far back as I can remember. I was involved in almost every extreme sport. In fact, the big joke in my family was, Blair has broken every bone in his body but his neck. Luckily for me, 10 minutes later, someone found me floating lifeless on top of the water. They gave me CPR and brought me back to life. For 3 years after that moment, I was intensely rehabilitated, where I had to learn how to do everything again, from brushing my teeth and hair to learning how to feed myself again. I think some of the biggest aha moments for the students when I speak to them is when I say that my decision not to walk into the lake that night was unfortunately my decision to never walk again for the rest of my life. I also explained that I too once was in their seat. I sat through a Think First assembly when I was in high school. I actually even participated in it. But I had this belief that something like this could and would never ever happen to me. But here I sit.
I won't let one moment of holding you close slip away. Every day that we spend is like gold. Oh, baby, just stay. We don't have to let go. 'Cause we're timeless and time's just a crutch for the old. These nights, these kisses, these arms, they're yours. These words, these sentiments, I've never been so sure. Get lost in me, I'll be lost too. Oh, be my hope, I'll cling to you.
Friday, December 12th, 2008. A big hug and a kiss followed by, I love you, Mom. See you tonight. A few hours later, life changed forever. My son is Donald Sanderson, an amazing young leader, a bright student, a caring and loving person, and a passionate hockey player with a larger-than-life personality for 21 and a half years. Close to midnight on December 12th, a stranger called, a nurse, telling me my son was hurt, being transferred to a trauma center in Hamilton. There were calls from the hockey team president, a visit from the police to ensure I'd been contacted. I'd been out at the theater with family members, and I did not go to the hockey game in Brantford that night. Hearing over the phone from a stranger that your child has suffered a severe concussion, being rushed to the hospital, a CT scan confirmed the bleeding in his brain. I really don't recall much else. It's such a blur. Suddenly, I was living a parent's nightmare, a severe brain injury. I wasn't there. How could I see him as quickly as possible? The drive that evening from Port Perry to Hamilton was the longest drive of my life. You see, Donald's helmet came off his head as he fell to the ice during an altercation at the game that evening. The back of his bare head collided with the ice as he fell backwards. The surreal feeling that overcame me as I was asked to agree to have my son's frontal lobes removed by a neurosurgeon, it's inexplicable. I had to be dreaming. Watching my beautiful, healthy 6'2", 200-pound, 21-year-old son lie unconscious for 21 days in a hospital bed. Not a movie, it was real. And I remember the doctors talking to us about how much swelling had happened, keeping him on ice, about brain activity, looking at brain scans. All I did, I was holding Donald's hand, talking to him, hoping and praying he heard me. And that's how we spent our final days together. On January 2nd, 2009, Donald lost his fight for life. Watching him go to sleep forever was heartbreaking. Living through his funeral, seeing the thousands of lives he'd touched in his 21 short years was unbearably amazing. And somehow, he has helped me sustain quiet courage over the past 6 years. He lives in my heart. He is always with me. I miss his presence more than words can describe. And I hope that by knowing about Donald's unfortunate accident, that it truly defines how quickly life can change, that it helps others realize the importance of injury prevention. As Donald's mom, I never dreamed I'd be speaking to you about this topic or that I'd have set up a memorial fund in my son's name, presenting scholarships and events in his memory. Education, awareness, knowing the facts, sharing realities of what can happen are all the keys to ensure we all understand. Injury is possible anywhere, anytime. Knowing and implementing the preventative measures where possible will better so many of all ages. And even though my son is gone, his life continues to make a difference as his story is shared. I love you, Donald.
Stacy had happy blue eyes, hair the color of wheat, and dimples that were deep and inviting. I wasn't there when she stepped off the curb at the corner of Ledbury and Lawrence, directly into the path of an oncoming car. The next time I saw her, if a lifeless body is still a her, was in the emergency room at Sunnybrook Hospital. My task was to identify her body as she'd been jogging without identification. Later, I learned she had been exhausted after being up late the night before and working as a lifeguard the entire day. When her personal effects were delivered to me, they included her running shoes and clothes, which still had traces of her blood, and her shattered earphones attached to her Walkman. Years later, I listened to the song she must have been listening to when she died. Watching her friends carry Stacy's casket from the hearse to her gravesite, and the sound of the first shovel of dirt, which Honor felt to me as her father, hitting her coffin, are seared in my memory forever. What followed were many, many years of struggle for my sanity, to be a husband to my wife Cheryl, and a father to Marnie and Jacqueline, and being a productive lawyer again. For a long time, I lost the will to live. But some of the most painful times were watching helplessly as the rest of the family struggled to make sense of the senseless. I wished so much that I could take away their pain. I remember vividly the time when Cheryl turned to me and said, "Her clothes don't smell from her anymore." Over time, I turned to helping other bereaved parents as a way of healing myself. For years, I would say that Stacy died from a stupid accident. Then one day, a bereaved father invited me to a parachute event, and I heard a moving and passionate presentation about preventable injury, and a penny dropped. Stacy didn't have to die. It was preventable. Stacy could be alive today, and it would not have taken millions of dollars of research to cure a disease, or heroic efforts to stave off a famine, or enormous sacrifices to end a war. I just needed to raise her awareness about jogging distracted on busy city streets. That's all. It will be 20 years this August 30th since Stacy died. And sometimes I'm asked, when did I finally get over it? My answer is always the same. I will let you know when that happens. For now, I will work tirelessly to bring the message to anyone who will listen, that you need to educate yourself and those you love about taking responsibility for your own safety and the unbelievably simple things we can all do to prevent injury and the devastation that follows.
Just play through it. If I had $1 for every time I heard that in my career, I would most certainly not be living on a student budget. My name is Molly. I'm a hockey goalie at Harvard University. If there was a schematic diagram of my body behind me, you would see that I've had injuries from top to bottom and back. I am no stranger to pain and to taking one for the team. When I was 13, I suffered my first concussion and was fortunate enough to heal quickly. My second concussion happened when I was playing in a playoff game that would decide whether or not my team made the championship. I kept playing because my team needed me to win. We did, and 2 weeks later, when the team called on me again, I kept my mouth shut, knowing that something wasn't right, and I played, but the results were devastating. I was relatively incoherent for 6 months following that decision. My friends noticed I was acting differently, my teachers noticed that my work was not up to my usual standard, and my family noticed that I was not my normal chatty, happy self. Taking one for the team is one thing, and it's a decision that not only affected me, but everyone around me in the months that followed that season. The culture that we've created that surrounds sports supports and endorses the idea that no one and nothing is more important than the team. Last year, I was involved in a serious car accident that resulted in yet another concussion. It forced me to take a year off from my life. In that year, I realized that while taking one for the team is important, there's a fine line between giving up everything you are and everything you hope to be in order to avoid feeling like you've let your team down or being labeled soft. I'm not saying that any time an athlete gets a hangnail that he or she is excused from competition. Quite the opposite. I've learned a lot about the strength of the human body, the spirit, and the strength of a team by playing through a broken finger, a sore arm, bad knees, among other injuries. But the visible injuries are the easy ones. Your teammates see you limping, they see your fingers bent backwards, they see your sling, your cast, and the blood that you've shed for them. The invisible injuries, like concussions, those are the dangerous ones. Outwardly, there's very little evidence. no sling, no cast, no limp, but the functional trauma is real, and it doesn't get the attention and support that it should. When it comes to serious injuries, we need to take responsibility for the way that we act and react to them. We need to respect each other, both as opponents and as teammates. We need to make clear that no athlete ever chooses to be injured and to miss an opportunity to play. And as such, we need to support him or her when those injuries do occur. I think the change has to start with the players taking responsibility for their lives and the lives of their teammates. Only then will this stigma of being soft go away. When we realize that injury is not a choice, we can change how we stigmatize these injuries. When it comes to concussions, we need to take responsibility and we need to respect each other. We need to listen to what Dr. Tatter said to me when I first worked with him with my concussion. We need to take it slow, go step by step, and only when you're feeling 100% do you come back. This is vital to our well-being. Thank you.
We'll be wrapped up in blankets underneath the sky, hoping time stands still and we will never say goodbye. So lose your inhibitions, no worries, 'cause I will be your strength, your comforting, your shining armored knight. These nights, these kisses, these arms, they're yours. These words, these sentiments, I've never been so sure. Get lost in me, I'll be lost too. Oh, be my hope, I'll cling to you. Get lost with me like lovers do. Oh, be my hope, I'll cling to you.
Well, what a great demonstration you've just had about why injury prevention is important to me. And now I hope that you get it, why it should be important to everyone in this room. And fortunately, the good news is that we're now going to give you something to do about it. So get ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage auctioneer Alan Fleischman.